Fight fans, buckle up, because Misfits 22 was more than just a night of fights. Tony Ferguson finally ended his nightmare losing streak, Dillon Danis returned with a 15-second submission, Darren Till knocked out Luke Rockhold before sharing a beer with him, and the internet can't stop talking about Islam Makhachev's massive new look. This wasn't just another event. It was a turning point for some of the most talked about names in combat sports. Let's break it all down. For years, Tony Ferguson was a name fans whispered with awe. The man was once on a 12-fight winning streak, destroying opponents with elbows, spinning attacks, and unmatched cardio. He became interim UFC lightweight champion and was lined up for huge fights against the likes of Khabib Nurmagomedov. But fate, injuries, and bad luck derailed it all. What followed was brutal. An 8-fight losing streak that stretched for 6 years. He was finished by Gothia, choked out by Oliveira, battered by Dariush, and outpaced by Nate Diaz. Each fight looked worse than the last, and fans wondered if El Kuki had simply lost the fire. That's what made his return at Misfits Boxing 22 so compelling. This wasn't the UFC octagon. This was a boxing ring in Manchester against Salt Papi, a YouTube star turned fighter with slick timing and a huge online following. On paper, it seemed like a mismatch. Ferguson, the aging MMA veteran, stepping into unfamiliar territory. The betting odds had him as a heavy underdog, and many predicted he'd walk away with yet another loss. But Ferguson wasn't ready to be a stepping stone. From the opening bell, Salt Papi looked sharp. He snapped his jab, landed clean punches, and made Ferguson miss. The crowd buzzed as the influencer held his ground against the UFC veteran. For the first 2 rounds, it seemed like the same old story. Ferguson pushing forward but struggling to find his rhythm. Then came round 3. Ferguson's trademark pressure returned. He cut off the ring, forced Salt Papi onto the ropes, and unleashed a storm of punches. The relentless barrage had the crowd on their feet. Salt Papi staggered, barely defending himself. The referee had seen enough and waved it off at 2:43 of round 3. Tony Ferguson had done it. He finally snapped the streak. He dropped to his knees, overcome with emotion. After 6 years of heartbreak, the win felt like a new life. For fans who had followed him through his darkest days, it was a moment of redemption. But as always, no big fight ends without controversy. Some fans online argued that the stoppage was too early. Salt Papi hadn't gone down, and while he was under pressure, he hadn't been knocked out. Critics claimed the ref robbed Ferguson of a definitive finish. On the other side, supporters insisted that the stoppage saved Salt Papi from unnecessary damage. After all, Ferguson was landing clean shots, and the fight wasn't turning back in Salt Papi's favor. The debate raged across social media, but one fact remained. Tony Ferguson finally had a win, and for most fans, that was enough. The reactions were fast and passionate. Former UFC champion BJ Penn tweeted, "Way to go, Tony." Analyst Luke Thomas chimed in saying, "Yeah, definitely too early," but still acknowledged Ferguson looked better than he had in years. Journalist Tom Taylor admitted, "Never thought I'd see Tony Ferguson win a fight again." Love it. Fighters like Sodiq Yusuff called it a glimpse of old-school Tony. Even referee Mark Goddard, known for his tough calls, posted, "Yes, Tony. Just happy he's out safe." The overall vibe? Relief, joy, and a little disbelief. Ferguson, who had become a symbol of stubborn resilience, finally gave fans a feel-good moment. For once, they weren't watching him take damage, they were watching him shine. But Ferguson wasn't the only fighter grabbing headlines. Dillon Danis, often criticized for his antics outside the cage, finally backed up his words inside it. Facing MMA newcomer Warren Spencer, Danis wasted no time. Just seconds into the fight, he dragged Spencer down and locked in a slick submission. 15 seconds later, it was over. Danis had captured the inaugural Misfits MMA light heavyweight title. Yet the victory itself wasn't even the biggest story. After the fight, Danis stood face-to-face with Eddie Hall, the world's strongest man turned fighter. The stare-down teased a bizarre but entertaining future matchup that had fans buzzing. Danis didn't stop there. On the mic, he declared that his true goal was the UFC. He claimed the UFC lacked stars and said he was the one who could bring entertainment back. He even dropped names: Kevin Holland, Islam Makhachev, Khamzat Chimaev. According to Danis, he could beat them all. Whether fans believe him or not, one thing is certain: He knows how to keep his name in the headlines. The card also featured Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold, a fight fueled by heated trash talk. For weeks, the two had traded insults, building hype. Inside the ring, Till pressed forward with steady aggression. By the third round, he cornered Rockhold and landed a brutal left hand that sent him crashing. The knockout was highlight reel worthy, but what followed surprised everyone. Instead of continuing the rivalry, Till and Rockhold shook hands and even shared a beer. Later, Rockhold posted on social media, "Shit happens, it's all love." In one moment, years of animosity faded into mutual respect. It was a reminder that in combat sports, rivalries may sell fights, but respect often closes the chapter. While some fighters were finding peace, others were still ready for war. Alex Pereira is quietly preparing for his rematch with Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 320. Known for his devastating kickboxing, Pereira has always faced questions about his grappling, but new training footage answered some of those doubts. In the viral clip, Pereira is seen stuffing takedown after takedown as fresh training partners cycle in one after another. The grind is clear. He's building the gas tank and the defensive skills to keep the fight standing. If this continues, fans may see a far more complete version of Pereira in the rematch. But perhaps the most surprising storyline outside the event came from Islam Makhachev. In his latest appearances, fans couldn't believe their eyes. Makhachev looked huge. At UFC 311, he weighed in at 154 pounds, but by fight night, he had rehydrated and bulked up to nearly 178. That's a jump of over 20 pounds in just 24 hours, around 17% of his body weight. Makhachev himself admitted the bulk hasn't been easy. "All my life, I was cutting weight," he said. "Now that I want to bulk up, it's harder than people think. I'm lifting more, I'm eating more, but so far, I've only gained maybe 2 kilos of real muscle." Still, the footage doesn't lie. He looks thicker, broader, and more powerful than ever. The speculation is running wild. Is this a sign that Makhachev is preparing for a permanent move to welterweight? If so, how would his dominant grappling style translate against bigger opponents? Could we one day see him against Leon Edwards or even Kamaru Usman? The idea of a heavier, stronger Makhachev has fans buzzing with both excitement and fear. So what do we take away from Misfits 22 and the fallout around it? Tony Ferguson gave fans a redemption story they'll never forget. Dillon Danis showed he can still make headlines, both in and out of the cage. Darren Till and Luke Rockhold proved that even bitter rivals can walk away with respect. Alex Pereira is grinding for greatness, and Islam Makhachev may be transforming into an even scarier version of himself. Combat sports are unpredictable, dramatic, and sometimes downright bizarre. But that's exactly why fans can't look away. So now the big questions are on the table. Was Ferguson's stoppage too early, or was it the perfect comeback story? Can Dillon Danis really make the leap into the UFC, or is this just another headline grab? And how dangerous would a bigger, stronger Islam Makhachev be if he truly moves up to welterweight? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading everyone. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the breakdown, because it really helps the channel grow. And if you want to stay ahead of the fight game with fresh news, wild stories, and honest analysis, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. This is just the beginning. Bigger fights, bigger moments, and bigger controversies are always right around the corner in MMA. So stick with us, because the fight world never sleeps, and neither do we.